When you hear that name, what comes to mind? Power, charisma, the unshakable titan of Hollywood. Maybe that dangerous smile from Training Day, or that fiery stance in Malcolm X. What you see on screen is an iron will, a man always in control. But what if I told you this entire colossal career began with a simple prophecy, delivered 40 years ago from under a hairdryer in a beauty parlor? What if I told you that the most disciplined man in Hollywood was once a confused kid who flunked out of college with a 1.7 GPA? Tonight, we go beyond the red carpets and the Oscars. Tonight, you will hear the story of Denzel Washington's unspoken debts, the favors he paid in secret, and how he quietly lifted an entire generation. Because the greatness of a star isn't measured by the applause he receives, but by the support he gives in silence. Our story begins in Mount Vernon, New York. Denzel was born squarely between two worlds. On one side, his father, Denzel Sr., a Pentecostal minister with strict rules, discipline, order, and faith. On the other side, his mother, Lennis. She ran a beauty salon. Lennis's shop was the exact opposite of his father's church. It was chaos, gossip, laughter, and stories. Denzel grew up watching the rigid discipline of his father and the worldly performance in his mother's shop. But when those two worlds collided, everything fell apart for 14-year-old Denzel. His parents divorced. He found himself on the streets. He was a smart kid, but he was angry and he was lost. And that fateful moment happened in his mother's beauty salon. This is the 20% dramatic part of our story, but 80% of it is based on the truth Denzel himself has told. One day, while Denzel was helping his mom in the shop, one of the oldest customers, Ruth Green, was watching him from under the hairdryer. Denzel caught her eye in the mirror. The woman suddenly asked for a piece of paper and a pen. She came over to Denzel, scribbled something on the paper, and pressed it into the boy's palm. When Denzel opened it, he read a single sentence. "Son, you are going to travel the world and speak to millions of people." Denzel just stared at that paper that day. Speak to millions? He was just a lost kid trying to figure out how to survive the street fights. The prophecy did not come true immediately. In fact, quite the opposite. Denzel was sent to military school by his mother. He learned discipline there, but the anger inside him didn't fade. When he got to Fordham University, he had no idea what to do. First, he wanted to study medicine, then law, then journalism. Finally, his grade point average dropped to 1.7, and he was kicked out of college. Yes, you heard that right. Denzel Washington flunked out of college due to failure. Defeated, he returned to Mount Vernon. He worked as a garbage man for a while, then at the post office. That prophecy was now nothing but a joke. In those days, he experienced the darkest moment of his life. He learned the fate of the 3 best friends he grew up with. One was in prison, another was on a dangerous path, and the third was no longer alive. The streets had swallowed his friends. Denzel realized that day that he was looking over the edge of a cliff. He could be next. That summer, he found a job as a counselor at a YMCA camp. They organized a talent night at the camp. Denzel and the kids put on a small play. At the end of the night, a colleague tapped him on the shoulder and asked that magic question. "Man, have you ever thought about acting? You're really good on stage." In that moment, the prophecy from the beauty salon came back to him. Speak to millions. Maybe he was meant to speak not as a preacher, but as an actor. He returned to Fordham, but this time, not as the lost kid with a 1.7 GPA. He returned as a craftsman who had found his life's purpose. Denzel didn't see acting as a tool for fame. He saw it as a craft, combining his father's discipline and his mother's storytelling. When he won his first Oscar for Glory as Private Trip, Hollywood applauded him. But Denzel's real test hadn't even begun. When the role of Malcolm X came, it wasn't a role, it was a responsibility. Denzel locked himself away for months. He didn't just memorize lines, he shouldered the spirit, the anger, and the legacy of Malcolm. His performance was so flawless, everyone assumed the Oscar was a lock. The Oscar for Best Actor goes to Al Pacino for Scent of a Woman. For many critics, this was one of the greatest snubs in Hollywood history. Denzel had resurrected the icon of a generation, but the Academy preferred a performance famous for yelling, "Hoo-ah!" So, what did Denzel do? Did he yell? Did he protest? No. He smiled and respectfully applauded his colleague. But the system continued to test him. A few years later, he gave another tremendous performance in The Hurricane. He lived the pain of Reuben Carter, and he lost again, this time to American Beauty. The system was refusing to reward Denzel's righteous heroes. He was bullied and overlooked throughout his career. But he didn't respond with bullying. He smiled with respect and planned his next move. "Since you won't reward my heroes," he thought, "then I'll give you a monster you can't forget." And training day arrived. Denzel did the opposite of everything he'd ever played. He transformed into the charismatic, corrupt, dangerous Alonzo Harris. And that night, he finally won the Oscar for Best Actor. When he walked on that stage, it wasn't just a victory. It was proof that he had beaten the system at its own game. That night, he saluted another legend sitting in the balcony, Sidney Poitier. The torch had been passed with respect. Denzel was at the pinnacle. He had nothing left to prove. And right at this point, the real Denzel Washington story, the one most of us don't know, begins. His story is not written in the awards he won, but in the debts he paid in silence. Denzel never forgot the place that saved him from the streets, the Boys and Girls Club in Mount Vernon, part of the YMCA. For over 30 years, he has been the national spokesperson for this organization without taking a single penny. He didn't just write checks. He went to those clubs, sat on the gym floors, and talked for hours with kids who were lost, just like he once was. Never forget where you came from was his philosophy, but the most moving story of his generosity has become a legend in Hollywood. Years ago, there was a young, talented, but broke student at Howard University. His name was Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick and a few friends had been accepted into a prestigious summer program at Oxford. It was a life-changing opportunity, but they had no money to go. Desperate, they went to their teacher, the legendary actress Phylicia Rashad. Rashad saw the light in these kids. "Don't worry," she said, "I'll call a few friends." Phylicia Rashad made a phone call to a friend. "I have a group of students," she said. "They are very special, but they need help to get to Oxford." The voice on the other end of the line didn't hesitate. "Take care of the money," the voice said. "I'll pay whatever it costs." That voice belonged to Denzel Washington. Denzel didn't even ask for the students' names. He just quietly paid the bill, ensuring a light wouldn't go out, just as someone had once done for him. Years passed quickly. That young man, Chadwick Boseman, became a global icon with the movie Black Panther. At the film's massive premiere, Chadwick Boseman, now one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, approached Denzel Washington. He was a little nervous. "Mr. Washington," he said, "you probably don't remember me. My name is Chadwick Boseman. Years ago, you were the person who paid for me to go to Oxford." Denzel looked at him, stunned, then laughed with that famous warm smile. "So that was you. You've done amazing. Now it's time to pay your debt." And the debt was paid. Years later, as Chadwick Boseman was silently battling cancer, Denzel Washington gave him one last gift. He produced Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, the film featuring Chadwick's final and perhaps most powerful performance. Denzel had, without knowing it all those years ago, given the young man whose tuition he paid a magnificent final farewell into cinema history. A circle was complete. Denzel Washington's story is the story of maintaining respect even when you are bullied. It's the story of creating your own path when the system ignores you. Today, he is still paying his debts. He is leading a multi-million-dollar project to film all 10 of the legendary playwright August Wilson's plays. Why? Because he knows Hollywood won't tell these important black stories. If he doesn't do it, no one will. He is the man who says, "Don't confuse movement with progress." He is the man who says, "Never forget where you came from, but don't you dare stay there." And he is the man who for over 40 years has carried that small piece of paper from the beauty parlor in his wallet. The prophecy had come true. So, what is it about Denzel Washington that you respect the most? Do these unknown stories of his generosity affect you as well? As we prepared this story, we found ourselves respecting not just a star, but a mentor. Share your thoughts and any similar stories you know in the comments. If you want to learn about the true legacies of celebrities, not just their scandals, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. So, what part of this story impacted you the most? Was it Denzel's secret generosity, or his dignified stance against the system? Please share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Are there other stories you know, stories of people who deserve this kind of respect? If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and consider sharing this story to spread the respect Denzel Washington has earned. To join us on this journey, where we focus on the true legacies of celebrities instead of just the scandals, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell. See you in the next story. Stay respectful.